In this video, we're going to go over the first few steps that you're going to take every single time you build a website with WordPress. Now, this goes along with what we've talked about before with building our websites in a certain workflow. The first part of building a website is setting up the structure, putting in our pages, and deciding everything that our website's going to be about and kind of setting up the structure for it. The second step will be adding in and displaying our functionality, so building our discussion forums or installing and setting up our e-commerce store. And the last step is going to be setting up the design and building the front end pages so everything looks fantastic. So the first step is always going to be just creating all of our pages and setting up our menus and everything kind of set up so that by the time we get to the design phase, everything that's going to be on the front end is on the front end. And then we're designing our pages around our content and around the things on our elements on our page, instead of doing it the opposite, which is building this great design and then trying to fit all the elements into the page. So it always works better to kind of get everything set up first and then go through and create our design. So what I've done here is I've installed a completely fresh installation of WordPress, and we're going to go through and we're going to set up our pages, set up our menus, configure our settings a little bit, and then we'll move on to the functionality. So this is a completely blank WordPress installation. We're going to go into our dashboard first, and the first thing that we're going to do is check for updates. As you can see, when we have updates, we have this little notification icon. So we'll click that to see what updates we have. And this will differ depending on the host that you choose. You might not have any updates ready, or you might have a few. It all depends on the default installation that your host provides for you. So the first thing here, we have a plugin update for Kismet. So we'll just select that and click update. And then we'll go back to our updates screen and we will update all of these themes. Now I'm going to delete these in a moment, but it's just always just good to get in the habit of keeping everything up to date at all times. So now our WordPress, our plugins, and our themes are all completely up to date. So the next thing I'm going to do is just what I just said, which is I'm going to go in and delete all these extra themes that I don't need. So again, you may have these or you may not. It all depends on your host setup, but it's always good to get rid of everything that we're not going to use. So whether it be plugins or themes or anything else. So we're just going to quickly click on these and click in the delete button in the bottom right, keeping 2017 or whichever is the latest default WordPress theme that's available, but we don't need all these older ones. All right. So now we have our default 2017 theme, and we're going to go now do the same thing with our plugins. So we're going to click on plugins, and we have these two default, Kismet and Hello Dolly, but we're not going to be using those, so we can just delete those. So now we have a nice, clean, empty WordPress install, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set up all of our pages. So we click on pages and we can delete our sample page that comes with WordPress. And then we're going to create our pages. So first we're going to create a home page. Now, if you're building a WordPress blog, so your website is just going to be a blog or the main feature is going to be a blog, then you don't necessarily need to create a home page, because on your home page will be your blog will be your blog page. So it will be your blog posts, and we'll show you how to set that up in a bit. But if you're just creating a blog and you intend to have your blog page be on the first page that a user sees when they log in, you don't need to create a home. For business websites and general marketing websites and pretty much every other website, you're going to want a home page. So we're going to create a home page, and you can call this anything. You can call it welcome to my business or whatever it is. I'm calling it a home just so that you understand this is our home page, but what actually designates this as the home page is in the settings, which we'll do later. So just calling it home doesn't work, but you can call it anything you want and we'll set it up later. But for now, I'm just going to create my home page and click publish, and I'll create an about page, which we generally have. And I'll create, say, a services page. So I have my services page, and then now let's say I have a few services, and how I want to set up my site is I want to have a services page that has an overview of the services that I offer, and then an individual page for each service where I can go into more detail. And in order to do that and keep everything organized, what I'll do is I'll create a services page as children of my main services page. So what that means, so let's say for my company, it's a web design company, web development company. So let's say one of my services is development. So now I'll go to this parent dropdown and I'll select services. And what that does is does a couple things. It creates that page as a child of services for the system, and that also affects the URL of the website. So you can see my URL, and then it has /services/development. So within the URL structure of our site, it keeps that order. So now I'll just create one other service, let's say for marketing, and we'll put that under services as well. And now I'm going to create a blog page. And now this is the page that I want my blog entries to be. And again, you can call this anything you want, news, upcoming events, whatever you're going to use those blog posts for. But what actually designates it is in the settings. So you can call this whatever you want, but it's the we're going to create a page that later on we're going to designate as the page that we want all of our articles on. So I'm going to call it blog, and then we'll create a contact page. So now all of my pages are created, and we can go in here and we can see them all on this this page. And you can order these if you want by using this order box here. So if you actually like to have your pages listed, it only affects the back end. But if you're incredibly organized and you want those to be in order, you can use that order thing. So now these are all the pages. And so now the next thing that we're going to do, because we already have our sample post, and as I'm always saying, don't worry about putting in page content yet. Or post content, because we can kind of go through that when we're building our designs. We can put our actual page content in, because when we get into themes, we're actually going to be using a front end builder to put kind of really nice designs together for our content. So right now we're just creating a structure. We're not going to actually put any page content in. And the same thing with blog posts, because it's up to you, but you can either have a standard format for all blog posts, or you can actually individually design each blog post that you do to kind of design around the content of that post, because you may have a lot of different kinds of posts, or you want a different kind of setup for each one. So don't worry too much about that now. We'll just use this sample post to see how our blog page is going to look on the front end and to make sure that everything is working properly. So we have our pages, we have our posts. You can go in if you'd like now and put in your post categories. That's definitely something you can do. So we'll just put in, if I'm going to create a food website, we'll put in quickly breakfast, lunch, and dinner for my blog categories. That's up to you. It really depends on how in-depth you're going to go with your blog, but if you want to put those in now, you can, just to get it set up. And then we're going to go and create our menu. I went to the wrong place. So appearance, and then menus. And we're going to create the main menu for our website. Now you'll probably have a few menus. You probably have one at the top. You'll have a footer menu down at the bottom with the base pages. For now, just worry about, we're just going to create our main menu right now so that we have the structure of the site and a menu to go through on each page. We'll set up the other menus later. So I'm going to click top menu, because for this theme, the 2017 theme, the top menu is that main menu at the top, which I'll just show you here. So when it says top menu, there's nothing here now, but it'll appear right here, and that's where the top menu is referring to. And that differs from theme to theme, but when we get into the themes and front end stuff, we'll show you. So we'll check that box, we click Save Menu, and then we'll quickly add our pages. Just select them, click Add to Menu, and you can reorganize them any way you'd like. And then I'll click my services, my individual pages, and we'll put those under services and just slightly indent to create a drop down. So just because it's a child doesn't mean it automatically shows up in the drop down. Our menu structure and our page structure are two different things. You'll want to try to keep them the same, but you have to do it in both places. So now the marketing and development will be a drop down of my services page. So we'll just quickly save that. And now we can go into widgets, but really this is going to be a front-end design thing. But if you wanted to kind of manage which pages are going to show, or which widgets are going to show up on the side, you can do that now. Normally I get rid of the meta, because very few websites are going to need that. But you can keep the rest of this the same, and we'll get into really kind of organizing it when we get into the front end. And then we'll go into our settings. And under settings, we're going to go to the reading setting. And this is what determines what page is your home page and what page is for your blog page. So if you're just creating a blog and you want those blog posts to show up when a user first enters your site, you're going to leave this the same. So the front page displays your latest posts. So whatever the home page is, that's going to display your latest posts. The majority of websites, though, we're probably going to have a static home page. So I select my home page, or whatever you decided to call it, and the post page, that's the page you want to use for your blog. So click the post page and click under that blog and click save. So now if we refresh our page, we're going to see now the blog that was here before has now gone, and now it's showing me my home page. And my menu is set up here, and we have our services drop down, and we have our blog page showing our blog post. So that's all set. And the last thing that we're going to do to set up is we're going to go into our permalinks, and we're going to set up that permalink structure that we talked about before, which is /category/post name. And what that's going to do is it's when we do create a blog post, the URL structure is going to separate them by category and then show the post name. If you want dates in your URL structure, you can select that from the list. That's fine too. But unless there's a specific reason to have dates in your URL structure, it's better to have just /category/post name. And this is for SEO purposes, because when let's say somebody's searching for WordPress help, and they come across a WordPress post from mine on the lattepress.com website on how to pick a host for WordPress. Now they might see that on the URL, before they even click on the link, they're going to see that I wrote that in, let's say, June of 2016. Now what they don't know is that I've been keeping that post updated always with the most relevant information. But when they see, last year, they're going to say, oh, well, this must be out of date, and they're going to click one of the newer posts. So as long as we're keeping our information up to date, it's better just to do category post name, and then people will always know, all right, this is what I'm looking for, and they'll click on it, and then they'll see, last updated, yesterday, and then they'll know that they're in the right place. So, and also it's better for SEO to have /category/post name. So it's really up to you what you want to do, but that's the one we recommend for most websites. Unless you need those to be dated for some reason, then you can pick any of these other options. So any of these would be okay, except for plain. Do not do that, because that is horrible for SEO, because it removes all of the slugs, which is the URL string that represents pages and categories and things, and replaces it with just the ID. And that's troublesome for a number of reasons, one of which is SEO. So once we put that in, and between the percentages, you put in category, and then between the post name, or in between post name, you put the percentage sign on either side, and this creates what's called a string, and then the system just knows to replace percentage sign, category, percentage sign with the category, etc. So you pop that in, click Save Changes, and now we are all set. And you're good. So that's just building the basic structure of our site. We want to put all of your pages in. Don't worry about the content. You can put it in if you'd like, but just try to keep in mind that you're going to have to redo it all later when we get into the front end. So this is really just about setting up our menus, setting up our pages, our basic settings. This is also the time you're going to want to go through all the rest of those WordPress settings, the reading and discussion, and just kind of set up the settings depending on what you're going to need for this specific website. So you can do that at this time now, but they all have descriptions, so it's not worth going through again. Or you can check out the longer tour video if you're still not clear on what's in each settings page. So that's it for this. Now we have our basic WordPress website. We have all of our pages and everything set up. And on your second or third website, when you've kind of gotten a handle of using WordPress, you can skip that first long tour video and jump right to this one to get all your initial pages set up. So the next tutorials are going to help you with your functionality. You're going to use that functionality list to select the functionality that you want, and your tutorial queue will update with all of the relevant tutorials.